I'm sure we all are aware of the heat that Chuck Schumer has been taking over his, what some people say, capitulation in the budget deal. Nancy Pelosi came out and said, I don't get something for, give something for nothing. Obviously, the AOCs have gone apoplectic about this, and they're calling him a traitor and calling for his head. My feeling is a little more nuanced. I do think that he is the old guard. I do think that times have passed him by. I don't think he understands the competition, which is the number one rule of the art of war: know your enemy, right? And I do believe that they could have gotten something. I think they could have filibustered it. They could have made the Republicans force the vote through. They could have called attention to what was going on. And so it really was something for nothing. But I would love to hear your thoughts on it, both in terms of what Schumer did and what future he has in terms of the future of the Democratic Party as leadership. Why don't we start with you, Kurt?
Yeah, Chuck Schumer did the right thing. He just did it the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well said.
As we talked about, in our previous episode, I definitely think that a shutdown would have been politically disastrous for the Democrats. There was no appetite in this country for that. It would have given Donald Trump uh, a pass on really the things that are happening with Doge that are creating so much chaos and consternation for the Republican side of things. Um, you don't go into a shutdown fight if you don't have an exit strategy, and there is no exit strategy that I could see for the Democrats. And as we've seen in the past, anybody who initiates a shutdown, it does not benefit them politically on either side of the aisle. It's just not. It's just a no go. But I do think that Chuck Schumer has a huge generational problem with his members. I think that his members believe that he's not the old Lion Senate that used to exist with names like Thurmond and Kennedy and Lindsey Graham 1.0 and John McCain and Ted Kennedy. They don't exist anymore. Joe Biden. And Schumer is a creature from that yesteryear and the political moment that we are in and the way that political fights unfold. I think that he is just generationally incapable of effectively fighting them. And so it would be a smart idea for Democrats to adjust their leadership, just as they did in the House with Hakeem Jeffries and Catherine Clark and Pete Aguilar and others replacing the Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn trifecta that ruled for 2 decades. I think that there needs to be a change in the Senate to recognize that. I mean, it's not an accident that AOC and Bernie Sanders are having these rallies and where 15,000 people are showing up. I mean, that's a substantial amount of people. That is that that's a freaking take your favorite pop star Katy
And
Perry
doing it in
concert.
Arizona, right? They're not doing it in Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's Arizona. It's Colorado, and it just tells you one that there's an appetite for the Democratic Party to see somebody take the leadership reins in a fighting, combative way to take the fight to Donald Trump and the Republicans. It is a recognition that the leadership in Washington has failed that demographic within the Democratic Party. I'm not saying that AOC and Bernie Sanders is the answer. I don't think that it is, but it does underscore the massive leadership void that exists within the Democratic Party. That right now, at this second, the closest connection that the Democratic Party base can make is to AOC and Bernie Sanders.
Who do you think
Yeah.
take could take over, Kurt, in regards to the Senate leadership? I mean, like, who is the future in your mind from
Well, I
current
think that there's a
senators?
I think there's a middle ground. Like you have, your fighters that we see all the time who are great on camera, who are great communicators and messengers. Um, you have the people who are running for president always in that mix, and then you have folks that uh, I think run somewhere in between that. Someone like a Chris Murphy, someone like a Cory Booker, even who was Cory always intrigues me because he spent time on the national stage. Who was seen as a rising star at one point, a potential presidential nominee. That time has come and gone. That he's kind of beyond that now. That's probably not going to be in the cards for him, which means he can afford the political headaches that come with leadership. I think the key thing with leadership is you almost have to no, you're not going to run for president if you're the Senate leader or the Speaker of the House. That's just not going to happen. The job is too complicated. You piss off too many constituencies. You have to have someone that is ambitious enough to want to be the leader, but not ambitious enough to want to run for president, or who has already had that part of their life and put that behind them. Someone like Cory Booker, I think, could be very appealing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I that was a general question, like, I just didn't know, but, I mean, Dave, I think that anytime you have Republicans saying that the minority leader of the Senate did the right thing, it's not probably positive for them. So, listen, Schumer did do the right thing 100%. I actually think from what I understand, Bernie Sanders does get a lot of these, crowds anyway. I mean, his list, from what I understand from some of his people is just amazing. And you're exactly
Mm.
right, Kurt. I mean, they're just looking for someone, that part of the Democrat Party, to fight. However, I do have to say some of the things they're saying on the stump is not something that the majority of the country actually believes in. So there is going to be a point in regards to opening the border. I mean, they're talking about that again. I mean, they're talking about some of the rights for transgenders in regards to sports. I mean, we know, and we've talked about this on TV a million times. Those are like 10%. 90% of the
Yeah.
country doesn't believe in that stuff. So obviously they're not the long-term answer, but they're the answer right now, I feel, to fight if there's not a bigger voice. But agree, Jeffries tried to do this as minority leader of the House in regards to criticize Schumer after he agreed with the deal, and then he kind
Mhm.
of backtracked because he had to. I mean, they can't be looking like they're against each other either.